Hey, what up, what up, what up? So, hey, how's it going? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, from wherever it is you're coming from. How was your day? How's your evening? How was your afternoon? How is your life? How are things? Okay, well, we are getting into it. We are getting into the groove of things. We are doing it. We are doing the things. And this is Rush to Judgment. And I am Jessica, and I am here to go with you on this journey through these trials and things. So far, it's just been trials that, you know, I find interesting right now. Maybe it'll be something different one day. I don't know. Probably. I'm looking into other things. I'm just kind of learning the way of the world here, what I can and can't do, and whatnot. So, the next trial, what we are working on right now, is the Chandler. I cannot say his name. I can't for the life of me. It's Chandler Bing, but it's not. It's Chandler Halderson. I'm gonna say Halderman. I don't know why. So if I interchange them, I apologize. You know what I mean. I can't do words. Words don't come to me sometimes. So, Chandler Halderson is on trial for murdering his mommy and daddy. We are in day 2. State got through quite a few of their peeps on day 1. So we're moving right along. This is, from what I can see, about a 2-week trial. And so, yeah. So again, just going to preface, I am not an expert, never claimed to be, never said to be. I am not a lawyer. I have no legal background. I do have a criminal justice degree, but I currently work in the mental health field. So take with that what you will. I don't, my only legal learning is what I get from the YouTube. So I can follow along. But clearly I do not have the legal expertise that you would find on a legal channel, if you will. So if you would like to watch them on those. Otherwise, I'm just here to give smart-ass comments, questions, comments, concerns. I look at it like I am a juror on these trials. And I would be like, I don't understand that. Or, that doesn't make sense. Or, how I would react in the place of a juror. Never been on jury duty. I always get out of it. I am the breadwinner of the family. So I can't take the time to do that. I would actually really, I think I would like to do that now. But I also don't think I could be a impartial. I don't know. It would depend. Maybe I could. Maybe I couldn't. I don't know. Depending on the case. But anywho, we're gonna get right into day 2. Don't know whose comment. I was gonna say calling or coming, and then it came out wrong. Again, I said I can't do words. Words don't come to me. So, don't know who is going to be called. Actually, I think it says Michael Hilgendorf. Oh, is this Hilgi? Is this what they said? This is Krista Halderson's friend. And then they have other people in there. But yeah, we'll just go along. We'll just see what happens. And I think what I'm going to do is break it up because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So it'll be broken up. Day 2 will be broken up into 3 parts, 3 2-hour parts. Possibly, depending on how long each of these take. I try not to make these videos more than 2 hours long because I doubt anybody is going to watch the full 2 hours, but who knows. And then if I get bored, I know somebody else is getting bored, so I skip through it. But so we are gonna most likely break it up into 3 and do 2, 2, 2. And that's how we're gonna go about that. And that's how I think we're gonna do day 2. And if the other days are the same way, that's how I would break it up. Try to keep them down to 2 hours. I'm pretty sure that's how I did the other one. I would like to keep doing it that way. So, anyway, okay. Stop rambling on, Jessica. And we will start this. Oh, shit. Helps if I do the things I need to do. To do that, we are going to make that bigger. We got our closed captioning on. We are going to go at 1.25 because we can. And then I'm going to turn off for just the first little bit, because I got some ice cream over here that I'm going to eat, and I don't want you to hear me chewing and smacking and whatever. So I'm going to turn my mic off so you can't hear me do that. So yeah. But I'll pop in if there's anything worth, my words. Okay, let's go. Change it to this.
Thanks, everyone. Please be seated.
Please
Good
be
morning,
seated.
ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for.
And if you do watch the Law
no one
Tube
experienced any
or
travel getting here.
At the end of the day, lawyers on YouTube and whatever, and you know who Legal Vices is, this judge sounds just like him.
Find yourself delayed because of some sort of weather situation.
And that's all I hear.
Just be safe. We will wait.
That's all.
Until everybody's here.
That's all I
don't know if
hear.
we'll experience any other type of weather condition as we go through the next weeks, but thank you for today, and be in touch with us if you need to contact us if you experience something that you think would be a serious delay for you. I would ask everyone at this time, since I haven't seen you since 4:30 yesterday approximately, is there anyone who was exposed to any information about the case, sought any information, participated in any discussions intentionally, or overheard any discussions about these matters? If so, raise your hands. I see no hands. I know that it takes a long time getting into the building in the morning, depending on what else is going on amongst my colleagues on the bench or the different governmental offices in here. And the elevators are slow as well. I just remind everybody that it's best not even to engage in any kind of normal conversation that you spend as you're standing in a line or or waiting for something, unless it's someone else that you recognize from the jury and you want to chat and say hi and how was your drive in and so forth. That's just the best and safest precaution to use. And the security situation at the front door does slow things down.
That wouldn't be hard for me.
I've gone through that myself. And it's tightened
to
up
talk
over
to
time
strangers.
So, but it's
no, it would be hard for me to not talk to like the other jurors, probably.
Thank you very much. We're here for the second day
and then
of
to
trial,
like
and the state's case in chief. Could you please call your next witness?
I don't have anybody at home to talk to, really. But especially if they weren't there, it'd be hard not to talk to the other jurors.
Raise your right hand, please. If you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter, the truth, the whole truth.
I think. Because clearly, I have questions.
Good morning, sir. If you are comfortable and willing and believe you can safely and responsibly testify without a mask, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Good morning, sir. Could you please tell us your name? And I think you're going to have to slow down and spell your last one for us, but spell both your first and last name.
Sure. My name is Michael Hilgendorf, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, and the last name's Hilgendorf.
I'm going to ask if you can grab the mic by the base and pull it towards you a little more.
Sure.
Sometimes lower voices just don't resonate the way that we need them to under the system. Thanks.
Sure.
Michael, how old a man are you?
53 years old.
And where do you live? Just what town in state?
I live in Madison here on the east side.
Why does it matter
Did you know
their
someone,
age?
by the name of Bart?
Don't ask me how old I am.
Yes.
Who did you know first?
I knew Krista. Went to middle school with her. Me and my wife did.
So you and your wife went to middle school with Krista?
Yes.
And even have you known her ever since?
Yes.
Have you been friends with Krista ever since middle school?
Yes.
Could you give us a little bit of history about when Krista met Bart, whenabouts that was, and how they met?
My wife is much more of a has much more of a memory on that. But Bart and Krista met. They were working at a store in the mall, and they met there, and that's how their relationship grew there. And
your families maintained a friendship with the Haldersons over the years?
yes, very close. Kids are very close, the same age, within 2 weeks.
Would you mind telling me a little bit about your family? You're married. You have a wife.
Yep.
What's her name?
My wife is Jane Hilgendorf.
And you have some daughters?
Yep. I have twin girls, Hannah and Haley Hilgendorf. They're 25.
And preview a little bit today, but they're all going to be here today. They're all here right now, aren't they?
Correct.
Over the years, would your families get together a lot and see each other?
Yeah. When we had the chance to get together, we always went out to a Mexican restaurant, Pedro's, that we would always hang out with. And that way we had enough room to everybody spread out and relax.
Are your kids, your daughters, approximately in the same age group as the Halderson boys?
Yes.
And would they?
He just said that.
Yes.
He just
How well did you know Bart Halderson?
said that.
Very well. Very well. I think the only thing that we were good is we don't spend enough time together. You're just busy, but we're close friends. And it was nice when they moved back to Windsor so that we were closer and we could spend more time together.
What kind of things would your families do together?
Well, since they moved down to that pond, we used to do a lot of fishing there. That was fun. But mostly we would just visit and get together or have dinner. And as we got older.
The Haldersons have a cabin.
Yes.
Do you know whereabouts that was?
I only know about where it was from going over there. I think it's in Langlade County, but I had never personally been there until driving there.
You never went to the cabin with the Haldersons?
No.
When was the first time you realized that maybe something was up, that either Bart or Krista hadn't been heard from?
Well, the first thing I found that was odd was I think it was, I'm not sure the actual day, if it was Friday but like July 1st, work called me late in the day because I worked with Krista. And they wanted to know if she had called me and let me know that she wasn't going to come in the day, which I found was odd. It was already late in the day for me. I was within an hour or two of leaving.
Sure.
And I said, no, I hadn't heard anything, but I would try to call the boys and see if we could figure out, what was going on.
And we should pause because I think we should make sure everyone understands. You worked with Krista.
Yes, Krista worked. She had.
Jesus Christ, that's what you just said.
Well, we have openings at Zimbrick. I worked for Zimbrick Volkswagen in Madison. And so she fit in well over at our used building, which is about 1 block across the street. And she fit in down there at the body shop very well.
What was her job?
I think she took care of their accounting and their paperwork and ran their customer counters for when the people would come in and pick up their cars.
Got it. So you got a call on that Friday that she had missed work.
Yeah, they called me late in the day to check. And that Friday, we reached out and believe Jane called Chandler and Mitchell, and then we, at that point in time, I got back to work, and we were told obviously that they had went to the cabin, and we were leaving on vacation for 2 weeks to go to our cabin in Sainer, Wisconsin, and so we took off, and assuming that everything was kosher, and we just left and went on vacation because that's where we were headed.
Did you leave that Friday?
Yes.
So if I told you that Friday was July 2nd, that sound about right to you?
Yeah, it's right in that area.
You're up at your cabin. How long were you planning on staying up there?
I think we were planning on staying until the 9th and then coming back.
At some point, did your concern or your family's concern grow over Bart and Krista and where they were?
Yes, it did. Well, we really hadn't heard a whole lot. And then we had received a call again, as far as from Chandler, that they still were not missing or not found. And at that point in time, I asked my wife just to get the address, and we would drive there to their cabin to see how they were doing or if they needed help.
Now, this was the next week after that Friday, going into that next week?
Yeah, so I would think that would have been a Wednesday of the next week, if I remember correctly. So we got up, drove over there, and that was the first time, we'd ever been to that cabin.
How did you get the address?
Chandler gave it to my wife, and then we added it into the GPS and drove over to the cabin.
So on Wednesday, you drive over. Was it close? Or you're right next door?
No, it was 88 miles away.
Okay. Bit of a trek.
Yes.
And it was just you and your wife at that point?
Correct.
Tell me what you found when you got to the cabin.
Absolutely nothing. There was a log over the driveway, which looks like that's the way they had it. It was kind of goes up to like an old wagon wheel and crosses over. So I stepped over that. There was probably, I would say, 12 to 14 inches of grass. So the grass hadn't been cut, and you could see that nobody was there. I did walk around the cabin and look at all the doors, and everything was locked up tight. There was external padlocks on all the doors.
Okay. After walking around the cabin, did you conclude that they hadn't been there?
Correct. I got back in the car with my wife, and I said, they're not here. They haven't been here.
What did you do? What did you do at that point? What did you and your wife do with that information?
Well, at that point in time, then we called Chandler back to let him know that they were not there.
Can I ask you a question? Were you at the cabin, around the cabin, when you called?
Yes.
You had cell phone?
At their cabin.
And you had
Yes.
cell phone service?
Yes.
And did you overhear the conversation with Chandler? Or
I did.
Was it just your wife on the phone?
No, I overheard it. We have Bluetooth through the stereo.
Through the car?
Yes.
Okay. And did you inform Chandler that his parents weren't there?
Yeah. He told him that the parents weren't there.
What did he say?
At that point in time, he said, you didn't see anything? No shotgun shells, no blood, nothing? And I said, nobody, absolutely nobody has been here.
He asked
Yeah.
if you saw shotgun shells or blood.
Shotgun shells, blood, anything. And I, at that point in time, the conversation ended up fairly quickly. And that's when me and Jane we're back in the car, obviously, and we turned around to head back to our cabin. And I responded to Jane. I said, this is really giving me a sick stomach. I said, this does not seem right. This something's not right here. And that's where we left it.
What did you end up doing that day?
We ended up going back to our cabin. We slept for a couple hours, put everything in the car, and came directly home that same day. So, which was, I believe, like I said, Wednesday.
After you got back home, did you yourself have any other contacts with Chandler Halderson?
I did not. But on the way home, I know my girls had went over to the house.
Okay. All right, 1 second.
Sure.
No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a few questions. You are aware that the Haldersons moved to Plymouth, Wisconsin when Chandler Halderson was around first grade. Is that right?
My wife would remember more things like that. I don't know what age they moved there.
There was a chunk of time, maybe 10 years, when they didn't live in Dane County and lived in Plymouth, Wisconsin, correct?
Correct.
And during that time, is it safe to assume that the regular meetings at Pedro's, and of course, they weren't living in the house with the fishing, so those things weren't happening, correct?
Correct.
And so you were getting together with them less than you would when they lived close by.
I myself, yes. My wife was still getting together with her off and on. My wife would drive up.
When you went to the cabin in July of 2021, were you looking for any evidence or any information about what might or might not have happened up there?
I was looking for Krista and Bart, and I didn't find any evidence that anybody would be there or was there for a matter.
When you were looking around, you found at least one shell casing somewhere on the property, correct?
No,
And you brought that up with Chandler when you talked to him on the phone, correct?
that I found a shell casing?
Yeah,
No, I said we didn't find anything there. I didn't say anything about shells.
okay, thank you.
Any redirect? May this witness be excused and released?
You may.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a good rest of your day.
And Judge, could we approach for, I promise it'll only be about 5 seconds.
Sure.
You can head out, sir.
Okay.
Perhaps I can make a record after you tell me what it is. So. Sure.
You see the way he's holding his pencil? That's how psychopaths hold their pencils.
Ann, go ahead and call the witness, please.
State's going to call Haley Holdendorf.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are a few witnesses who have, I've been advised, have spoken with the state's attorneys regarding concerns they have based upon their own personal circumstances or employment situations where they've requested that they be permitted to remain masked while testifying. I realize that being able to see someone's face is the most helpful, but in these times and with the necessity of people responding to subpoenas for which they have no choice but to respond, I think it's the least we can do to honor their concerns and their considerations. So I would ask you to not hold it against any witness if they were to not even be asked to unmask while they're testifying. I wanted to explain why I'm not having that conversation with this witness, and there may be some others throughout the trial. So I appreciate your understanding of that factor. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Could you please state your name, both first and last, for the record, and spell them?
My name is Haley Hilgendorf, Hailey, Hilgendorf.
How old are you, Haley?
25.
And what do you do for a living?
I am a nurse on an inpatient rehab unit.
Did you know two individuals by the name of Krista Halderson and Bart Halderson?
Yes,
How'd you know them?
aunt and uncle.
Okay. And you're not related by blood, is that fair?
Correct.
So how did your family know them?
Mom and Krista were friends for 38 years, and so we kind of just grew up with their family, best family friends. And seeing as Krista didn't have much family around, we kind of just became their family, and they became ours.
Was Bart Uncle Bart?
Uncle Bart.
And
That's sad.
just tell me briefly, what sort of things would you guys do when you got together? Or
He would be on a work trip, and he'd come down to Milwaukee while we were in college, and he'd just ask us if we wanted to go out to dinner, if we were in town, or if he wanted us to swing by, hang out, needed help with our student loans, anything like that.
how did you first learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
From my mom freaking out.
Okay, in a phone call?
Yes.
Based on that conversation, what, if anything, did you decide to do?
I decided to come home from Milwaukee and figure it out for myself.
Okay. And what did you do once you came home?
As soon as I got home, I talked to my mom for a little while and decided that I should head over to the Halderson residence.
When did you do that?
I wanted us to take boys as my parents would have wanted us to take care of them.
Okay. And who was at the Halderson home?
Chaz and a bunch of other detectives and stuff.
Okay. And you say Chaz, you mean Chandler?
Correct.
Do you see Chandler in the courtroom today?
Yes.
At this moment, I'd ask anyone within the courtroom, but not in the jury box, to lower their mask for the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and replace your masks.
Could you identify him by where he's seated and maybe the color of his shirt?
He's to my right over here with a blue shirt.
Ask the record to reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
It shall.
So do you remember what day this was that you went over to the Halderson home?
Pretty sure it was Wednesday.
Okay, so that would have been July 7th. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Okay. And what did you go over there with the intention of doing?
Making him dinner and making sure he was okay.
Okay. Did you go with anyone, go by yourself, or something else?
And with my twin sister, Hannah.
Okay. Do you remember roughly what time you guys showed up?
5:36.
Okay, so dinner time.
Dinner time.
Okay. Explain to me, was this the first time you'd been at the house, or had you been there many times in the past?
I've been in there quite a few times in the past.
How did the house look that day?
A little different. I noticed the couches were covered. And I didn't notice too much else. There was a table that was turned on its side. And I can't remember much else, to be honest.
Okay. You said the couches were covered. Do you mean like with blankets? Or?
Yes.
Okay. Did Chandler say anything about that at any point to you?
No.
Okay. And where was the table on its side that you saw?
Have you been in there?
You can explain what room. We've shown pictures.
It's just in the kitchen where the tile was, like near the wall.
Okay. Did you take any pictures of anything in the home that day?
Yeah, I took a picture of the table with the thing. Like, I was trying to make sure, like, I don't know, I guess I was conflicted because I heard that they left unannounced, but then I heard that there was a possibility that my parents picked him up, and I'm like, because I actually wanted to know if I was trying to figure out who Pam was because I've never heard of Pam, and that was the name on the bottom. It said, call Pam if you need anything. So I was like, Mom, who's Pam? But I didn't want to forget who the number and name was on there. So that's why I originally took it.
Okay. All right. So when you get to the house, do you have any interactions with Chandler?
Yes, he greets us at the door and gives us a side hug.
He gave you a side hug? Is that how he normally greeted you?
No, we're
Explain
hugging
that.
family. We all hug each other, full arms, straight on.
Other than the side hug, how would you describe Chandler's demeanor?
I would just say he was preoccupied. He had a lot of other stuff going on. There wasn't much he could do with us. Very busy.
So when you got there, did you guys talk? Did you make dinner? What occurred?
We ended up not making dinner because the detectives were there for a while. My sister and I sat up on the couches while they were downstairs doing stuff with the detectives. And then at one point we helped out with the dogs because we know they're dogs and they're very scared of people. So we took them out the back and we were playing with them outside for a while, playing fetch. And then we'd come in because one of the dogs got hurt. And so we decided that we'd just bring them in because we don't want them to keep running around if they're already hurt. And then we fed them dinner
Did it
upstairs.
step
So
on
we
a
returned back
bee?
upstairs.
Okay, you fed the dogs dinner.
Yeah.
Okay. What happened next?
Detectives left probably like 15, 20 minutes after that. And then my sister and I sat at the table with Chandler.
Are we not allowed to get up from the table? Because of COVID.
Did you and Chandler discuss anything of note on on July 7th when you were over at his house?
The thing that stuck out to me most was about the text messages. So you want me to explain that?
Sure.
Okay. So we were like sitting down. We were just like talking in general, like asking how he was doing. He said he was fine. He's hanging in there. He's just trying to figure out what's going on. And that was my only red flag looking back when he said they asked me for text messages. The detectives did, and you never have to give them your phone. You can just send screenshots because they got everything they need.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. Chandler's parents are missing.
We didn't know that at that point, but yeah.
Okay. Police are there investigating. The police leave. And he gives you advice that you don't have to turn your phone over to police.
Yeah, he said mirroring. The term mirroring.
Instead, he says, don't turn over your phone, take screenshots.
Yeah.
And that was his concern at that moment on July 7th.
It was one of them, but that's the one that like stuck out to me.
Did you have some communications with Chandler, or, well, let me back up. Tell me about leaving the house that evening. When did you guys decide to leave, and was there anything that made you leave?
We left because he said he was going to go eat dinner with Gail and Rick. So that's why we ended up not making dinner ourselves with him. We just left the groceries on the car. We never took them in.
Okay. And you leave with your sister?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any conversations, text messages, or phone calls with Chandler the following day, Thursday, July 8th?
I think it was the 8th. I do have text messages with him, but I don't remember which day.
Fair enough. I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 44. How would you describe Exhibit 44?
She's
And you can
confused.
turn the page if you would need to.
Is the whole thing?
Yeah. How would you describe it?
Okay. Normal, but still seeming concerned that
Or text
Your parents are
messages. Say
missing
text
and so-
messages.
All right. Is Exhibit 44 text message exchange between you and Chandler?
it is.
And
She can't ask
although
you
it has
that.
a day or two before, specifically, it's Thursday and it says 2:06 p.m. Is that fair?
Yeah.
And does it appear to be a true and accurate copy of the text messages between you two?
It is.
All right. I'd move Exhibit 44 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
And I would ask the move. And Haley, there should be a screen right in front of you that you should be able to look at.
Okay.
Hello.
Although this is sometimes. So we're just going to start the Thursday. And again, that would be July 8th. And is this what you wrote? Hey, how are you doing today?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
And then Chandler writes, I'm doing all right. I found some keys and my brother's heading up to the cabin now. So we will know more soon. And how do you respond?
And I said, okay, sounds good. Let us know. It's kind of clear. Let us know if you need anything, I believe.
If you need help with anything?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, she couldn't read it. There was glare. I couldn't read it
And
either.
then Chandler responds, thanks. Kat came over to help out around the house. I might ask my neighbor to help with the lawn because the mower shakes my head way too much. And how do you respond?
Again, it's clear, but I said, okay, I can ask my dad too.
And Chandler then responds, that would be nice of you. But he's a really busy guy. Okay. Do you understand or do you know why Chandler made the comment about his head and mowing the lawn?
Yes.
Why are you shaking?
Tell me about that.
I had heard he'd fallen down the stairs in the middle of the night, like the second set of stairs, because they were remodeling their home. So the upstairs bathroom one was still torn up. They did the basement one first. So their rooms are upstairs on the split level. So he was headed downstairs. He's the one that was finished, to my understanding.
And did you know anything else about his injury?
From what I heard, he was supposed to be in a collar.
Was he in a collar when you saw him on the 7th?
No.
On the 7th, when you saw him, did he complain about his head, his neck, his shoulders, or anything else?
He was walking a little different than normal. So I asked him and he said that's just part of the injury.
Okay. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
No, thank you.
May this witness be excused and released.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much.
Is the defense going to do anything?
State now calls Hannah Hilgendorf to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Hello.
Go right ahead.
Good morning. I'm going to ask that you pull that mic right up to you since you're
Okay.
going to leave your mask on.
Mhm.
Could you please state your first and last name for the record and spell both?
Okay. My name is Hannah Hilgendorf. My first name is spelled Hanna, and my last name is Hilgendorf, Hilgendorf.
How old are you, Hannah?
I am 25 years old.
And what do you do for a living?
I am a nurse.
Did you know two people by the name of Bart and Krista Halderson?
Yes.
How'd you know them?
My mom was best friends with Krista growing up, and then she met Bart, and they've been a huge part of our lives, our entire life.
In fact, you called them aunt and uncle.
Yes.
And how did you learn this summer that Bart and Krista
Can't
were
breathe
missing?
in that mask,
Okay.
can you?
I was living by myself at the time. So I talk to my parents every once in a while, like, you know, and sorry, I have to breathe. Okay. So, wait, how did I know what?
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
How did you learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
Okay. So my sister came over to pick me up and we were going to go shopping at Target and we were hanging out. And then my parents called and they were like talking to Haley, my sister. Haley's my twin sister, our only sister. So I was in the car with her and she just starts saying like, well, talking to my parents, like, well, I can't believe she hasn't, you know, answered yet, or another no call, no show to work. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why are mom and dad like freaking out that Krista is not like hanging out with them? Like, you know, this is like, they're adults like doing their own thing, you know? And then I was like, and then she stops, like she gets off the phone and she just tells me everything, like, oh, they've apparently been no calling, no showing to work. And she's not answering her phone. And the only person that my mother had spoken to was Chandler Halderson. And so, and my mother, well, that's the only person that she was dealing with at the time, trying to figure out what's going on. And he said he had known where they had went.
The fuck down.
So based on learning that Bart and Krista were missing, what, if anything, did you decide to do?
Okay, so I decided, you know, we need to be here for Chandler. At this time, I didn't know anything about, like, you know, much except for they were missing, and Mitchell and Chandler Halderson are like, we were really close to them growing up. So I said, man, like Chaz is like home all alone there, you know, like without them, like this is so sad. And so we run inside and we had just bought some food to cook. And we were going to go cook it at their house because we're like, let's just go over there now. Instead of cooking it here, we'll just go run there and say hello to him. And when we pull in the drive, I just remembered like there was the DAs were there, or detectives. I don't know what you guys are. Okay. But you guys were there. And then
the police.
Yes.
But in plain clothes.
Okay. Yes. The police. I don't know what they really, okay. So I was like, whoa, this is like crazy, you know, like what is like going on? So we go inside and yeah.
Okay. Hannah, had you been over to the 4595 Oak Spring Circle address in the past?
Yes.
Did the house look the same, different, or something else?
A bit different.
Tell me about that.
Okay. Just like each detail
of what you remember. Yeah.
Okay. So there were sheets on the couches. And then in the basement, I remember like there was these couches pushed together with a blanket laying over the couch as to like you could like lay in that basically, you know. And Chandler had mentioned he was sleeping downstairs to one of the police that was when they were downstairs. I heard him saying that. So he had just been sleeping in the basement.
You're making me tired.
2 couches, or like it's almost like a little fort looking thing that he built for himself, basically downstairs. I can't say to be exact because the picture gets less clear in your mind as time goes on.
Sure.
But it was like a fort looking thing.
Okay. And did Chandler say anything to you, or did you overhear him saying anything about the sheets on the couch?
Yes. I heard him talking to the police saying that one of the people that he had, you know, because he went to you guys and explained that his parents were missing, because talking to my parents really were very adamant that he
really
went and reported this. And apparently, like, there was another police earlier that day before Sims and this other detective or police, and he okay, that had went there, and apparently that other detective didn't like
she's got the ADHD,
like the dog hair on the couches, so he had placed sheets on the couches to protect him from sitting on dog hair.
So some other unknown police officer had asked Chandler to cover the couches?
Yes.
Because of dog hair?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did you observe anything about the fireplace?
They did not.
No, I didn't look at it. Okay. I walked past it, but it's like my mind was just like, this is such a weird situation and I want to not be here at all anymore. Like from the moment I walked in, I didn't want to be there at all, or, you know, so.
What do you mean when you say it was a weird situation?
Well, first off, the police are there, you know, and I didn't know at all, like anything of this caliber could be possibly ever be going on, that I would ever experience this in my life. And the feeling I received from Chandler was different to me than that of, that I normally feel from him. And so it's just weird.
Okay.
You know, I gave him a hug right when I walked in, and it wasn't like, oh my God, good to see you, you know? And I know that his parents were missing and stuff, but it was just he seemed different than he normally does. Not as, he's a more like warmer one usually.
And he was less warm on this occasion.
Yes, I would say less warm.
Did he make any statements about his health or how he was feeling?
Well, yes. I guess I didn't know he had hurt his neck and stuff like that, you know, prior to this. But apparently he had said something about a neck brace. And I know after the fact, you know, talking to my mom about that he had fallen down his stairs. But wait, can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. I asked if Chandler spoke to his health or how he was feeling.
Yes. Okay. Sorry, I get off the beaten path and then I'm like just telling you.
That's okay. I know you're incredibly nervous.
So, yes. So he had said his head didn't feel right. He was explaining, you know, he hadn't really gotten to eat all day and he hasn't gotten a lot of sleep and his head just really doesn't feel right is what he
Was
was
his
telling
blood
us.
sugar?
Do you remember
messed up
telling
too?
the detectives that he told you that his head is messed up?
Yeah, like he just didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. Something of that caliber, yes.
Was Chandler wearing a neck brace when you saw him on July 7th?
No.
How did you know about the neck brace?
I had, my mom had told me after the fact, I was like, this is just weird. Like, what in the heck is going on? You know, talking to my parents about this. And she said that he had fallen. I said there was something about that. And then my mom had mentioned what had happened prior.
Okay. Do you at some point that evening talk to Chandler about his parents being missing?
Yes. So, you know, we sit down at the table and the detectives leave. I wanted to go with them, but
why?
Just a weird vibe. And this is just not somewhere I just didn't feel very safe. Like I felt, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I'm sitting in the middle of what now seems to be a crime scene with somebody who is acting differently than I'm used to. And it just doesn't feel like a good idea.
Okay. And what, if anything, did Chandler say about his parents being missing?
Okay. Well, do you want me to answer the first? It was about the, what he said differently. Or you said, never mind. Okay, sorry.
I don't know what my previous question was.
It was going to be
why don't we just start fresh? And what did Chandler say about his parents being missing?
Okay. He said, you know, in the moment he told me, you know, they're probably just at a casino.
What did you think of that comment?
There's no way. There's just no way that they're like just the sweetest, loving people you will ever meet. And there is no way
people can go to casinos.
You know, they would have ever put anyone that they love or care about in a situation where they're worried about where they are. You know, she's like, do you need a glass of water? Do you need this? Do you need that? Like very sweet, loving, like caring people. There is nobody sweeter than those two. Like anything that they can do for you, they're going to do it. And they would never make anybody worried about where they are kind of people. And especially no way to a casino. Like she is a very modest, very kind of shyer person and wouldn't be doing that.
Did Chandler say anything else about his parents being missing besides the casino comment?
Really, he just kind of questioned me, like, should he make a Facebook post?
Tell me about that.
Well, we sat down and me and my sister went up and we were sitting at the main dining
hear you
table
breathing
in the upstairs, and he said, like, I don't know what to do now. Like, should I make a Facebook post? Like right after the police had left, and I was thinking to myself, I wanted to say, duh, you know, like your parents are missing. it's almost feeling like you have to think about how to act, you know? Like if your parents are missing, you go online, you tell everybody, you go to the police the day of, especially a no call, no show to work. They would have never done that. So, and to ask me, you know, what you should do now, and should you make a Facebook post, like how should you go about this? It was just interesting. And
Did Chandler make any comments to you about giving your phones to police?
yeah, that's like the first thing we had discussed. So he said that if a cop ever asks you to take your phone, you do not need to give your phone to them, because you can show them everything that they need without letting them mirror your phone. And that was like one of the first things that he had said to me. That's why I was like, I don't know. I was like, are you kidding me? Your parents are missing again. In my head, your parents are missing. You had apparently had contact with your parents, which I had learned later down the road talking to my mother after the fact. It wasn't my thing that I heard of, but it's just another thing adding to the story of like, your parents are missing. Why don't you let them mirror your phone so we can figure out if you had tried to call them, if we could see the location on the phone or anything like that.
I'm cold and I'm tired. And this lady is making my head spin. Can we be done with her?
No further questions.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
I have nothing, thank you.
May this witness be released and excused.
Yes.
Ms. Hilgendorf, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
State calls Jane Hogendorf.
Like, literally, is the defense going to do anything? I know they said they weren't going to question many people, but I swear they haven't questioned anybody. $10, she cries.
If you are willing and feel you can do so safely and responsibly, testifying without your mask would be our preference. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Could you please tell us your name and spell it out?
Jane Hilgendorf, H-I-L-G.
You've already had 3 people with the Hilgendorf. Why do you have to spell it out?
Even though I think I know you have to spell your first name.
Jane, J-A-N-E.
And Jane, who are you married to?
Michael Hilgendorf.
You'll be happy to know he testified and he deferred to you a lot, so we're going to ask you a lot of questions.
Okay,
Did you know someone named Bart and Krista Halderson?
I did.
Who did you know first?
Krista.
Tell me about how you knew Krista.
Is it Kristen or Krista?
We met in middle school. We didn't become really good friends until high school. She became my best friend our freshman year. We sat together every morning before my English class outside Miss Bear's room.
Where were you all going to school?
We both went to East High School.
Here in Madison?
Yep.
Sit
Did
still.
you remain friends with Krista your whole life?
Yep, 39 years. She's been my best friend.
Could you give us a little bit of history of Krista after high school? What did she do?
So after high school, she went to Eau Claire College. Her dad got sick, and so she came back to Madison and finished her college career at UW-Madison.
Sit still.
Do you know what she
Stop
majored
it.
in?
Art history.
So the first daughter was like the dad. The second daughter
Because
is
it's
like
not
this one.
Not many jobs in art
not a
history.
job you can go and be like, oh, I'm an art history major. Can I?
There's no art history factory.
Correct.
Okay. After graduating with a degree in art history, what did Krista do with her life?
She worked at Boston Store, Home Goods, She got married to Bart.
How did she meet Bart?
She met him at Home Goods.
They both worked together at Boston store.
Okay.
She was a manager and he was a clerk.
Is that the one here in Madison?
Yep,
That used,
at East Town Mall.
used
Yep.
to exist.
Just Boston. Good.
About when, and I don't expect an exact date, but about when did they get married?
When did they get married?
Yeah, what year, if you know, or approximately.
94, 1994, July 31st.
July 31st,
Yeah.
1994?
Aw.
Where did the Haldersons start their family? What town were they living in when they started?
DeForest.
And how long did they live in
They
DeForest,
were-
approximately?
That would
Probably 6-ish years, maybe.
Okay.
When they
And-
bought the house, because they had lived in an apartment up until that point, and then they bought a house. And then on Mohawk, 505 Mohawk. And then
they would have been married 27
the boys
years.
went to school, like kindergarten and first grade there. And then they moved
I don't
to
do
Plymouth.
math. I had to use my calculator.
And is Plymouth where they resided for quite a while?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. How far away was Plymouth from you?
About 2 hours and 15 minutes from house to house.
That was the farthest you'd ever probably lived away from Krista?
Yes,
And did you maintain your friendship during that time?
yes.
The boys were born and they went to school in Plymouth?
They were born in DeForest,
Okay.
started school in DeForest, and then went to Plymouth
Okay.
to school.
And did they go all the way through school in Plymouth or did they move before they graduated?
Nope. Bart had received another job when Chandler was a senior, and Chris is like, we're not moving him until he's done with high school so that he can finish out
Okay.
at one school.
So the boys were able to graduate from Plymouth.
Correct.
And Bart's new job drew him closer to you again.
Yes,
And you were happy with that.
I was excited about that. Yes.
And they went back to the same general area of Dane County.
Windsor, but yeah,
And that's the house on Oak Spring Circle.
correct.
So they moved there just after Chandler would have gotten done with high school,
Correct.
maybe 5 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Throughout all of these years, your families stayed connected, were friends.
Yes.
Tell me what types of things you do together.
So once, I believe it was winter break, Krista and I and the two boys and my two girls, my twins, we went to like Blue Harbor and stayed in a hotel at a water park. We would do dinners together, usually at Pedro's in Madison. They would come down and that was our spot, and we would all go out to dinner. Chris and I would visit each other, periodically. She would drive to Madison or I would go up there. Like on the girls' last day of, I don't even know what grade they were in, after they were done, because they only go for a short period of time in the morning, we drove to Krista and we went to Sheboygan to the beach
Oh, okay.
and just hung out for the afternoon.
That state park that's over there?
Yep.
Andre Kohler, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that is correct.
I've been to all the state parks. That's what.
Okay.
All 48.
I don't remember it. She just drove, I just rode.
Okay. Hard question, and feel free to tell me if you can't answer it, but you were around these folks a lot with their kids. What kind of parents were Bart and Krista?
Amazing.
What do you mean by that?
Now she's gonna cry.
They never really got angry. Like, I'll throw myself under the bus because when I get mad at my girls, I used to yell. They weren't yellers. They didn't do any of that stuff. I mean, I don't think they had probably ever even spanked their kids. They just They always gave them options and choices.
They did the gentle parent
Now,
before gentle
Mitchell
parent
and
was
Chandler,
a thing.
very close in age, 18 months or so apart.
Correct. Yeah.
Mitchell wasn't living in the house on Oak Springs, correct?
No.
But Chandler was?
Right. When they first moved there, he lived there for a very short period of time. Mitchell did.
Mitchell did. And was Chandler always living there, or had he moved out at times and come back?
He had moved out and when he went to school in Platteville. And then, you know, they move out, live in a dorm, then come back for the summers. And then I think he lived on, I believe it's Main Street, by like the Echo Bar. I don't know what the street is.
Sure. He lived down here somewhere.
Yep.
With some roommates?
Yep.
Okay. But then eventually moved back
Exactly.
with
Yep.
mom and dad? Okay.
Yep. After a year or about a year. Yeah.
There's noises outside my door.
In early July
Should I be
of last year, 2021,
the weirdo? Go check it out.
at some point you hear that Krista didn't
Hello,
go to
who's there?
one day where she was supposed to be there, right?
I got a call from my husband. Yes.
And your husband works with Krista.
Correct. At Zimbrick. Yes.
What, if anything, do you do with that information when you hear that Krista no-showed on a Friday to work?
I went, that's not my best friend. She would never do that. So I immediately called her cell. It went right to her voicemail. I called Bart. It went right to his voicemail. And I'm like, heck. So I didn't remember that I had Chandler.
That's fine.
We call him Chaz.
That's fine.
I didn't remember I had his number. So I called Mitchell right away. And I asked Mitch, I said, where's your mom? And he's like, what do you mean? She's at work. And I said, she didn't go to work and she didn't call in. He's like, I don't know. So then I called Chandler. After he was my fourth call. In the meantime, I had texted Krista a few times asking her where she.
I don't know what happened. I have no volume. It's not me.
Kevin, had you been there personally?
No, we were always going to go. We had made plans.
Still not me. You can tell because there's no closed captioning. So that means they don't have no volume either. Way to go, Ace. So we're just sitting here.
Said, I don't know. And I said, your mom is a very detailed person. She would never not go somewhere and tell you where she's going or who she's with. That's not Krista. She would leave you a mountain of notes.
Did Chandler provide any other information on this call about the cabin or where his parents were? Anything that you remember?
He said that they went with another couple, and I asked who, and he couldn't tell me. Which I thought was strange because, I mean, half the time her and I would say, you know, I'm going to the cottage this weekend, whatever. I never got a phone call like that. So that was kind of out of the ordinary for me. And for me to not be able to get a hold of her. I mean, if she didn't answer my calls right away, she would always call me back. Because she was like my sister, so.
Did Chandler seem to have any more details other than they were with another couple and they went to the
When my best friend is going out of town, I know she's going out of town.
Loaded up a bunch of booze and took a whole bunch of money. And maybe that they went gambling and they were going to have a really good time.
I'm going to pause there for 1 second.
Okay.
Were Bart and Krista people who loaded up a bunch of booze into their car usually?
No.
You answered somewhat emphatically. What do you mean by that?
So we had been to their house many occasions. My husband and Bart would have like a beer. That's all Bart would ever drink is a beer, or he likes scotch. That was, you know, or a little small glass of scotch, whatever. Just as we were winding down, Christy usually didn't drink. She would have maybe a beer.
Why is it didn't drink?
So I can preface this. I had asked on one of my occasions when I went up to her house, I'm like, do you want me to pick up a bottle of wine for us tonight? And she's like, no, I don't want to drink in front of the kids. And I was like, you're an adult. You can.
Right. You don't share that concern yourself.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I have a glass of wine. I'm an adult.
You don't carry that concern.
And
Nope.
the money.
Drink in front of
Did
my
that make
kids
any sense
all the
to you that Bart
time.
and Krista would load up cash, a bunch of cash, and go up to the cabin?
No. Bart's a CPA. He was very tight with his money. They both were. They kind of had a budget, and they didn't spend outside that budget.
And they
Hence,
were remodeling
Their
their
house
house.
was in disarray a little bit.
Sure. They were remodeling,
They were remodeling it to what Krista wanted. Yes,
doing some work themselves,
you bet.
maybe not up to code.
Demo day.
Okay.
He had a shirt that said demo day.
After this initial call with Chandler, this is on Friday, the day of the no call, no show.
Correct.
What'd you do? What'd you do with that information?
I tried calling her. We were planning to go up to our cottage. So I had called her a few times. I didn't get a hold of her.
And I
We
said,
all went up to our cottage as planned.
this little
So it was
shithead is
myself, my husband,
fucking lying. That's what
one
I
of
said.
my twins, and her boyfriend.
Your
That's
cottage in relation to theirs,
what I
I
said.
think your husband said 88 miles away. Sound about right to you?
Yep, about an hour. Yep.
But despite being an hour away, and both of you having cottages up north, you never made the trek. You'd always thought maybe we'll do it someday, but you'd never done it.
Right.
So while you're up at the cottage, are you worried about what's going on?
A little bit. And then I got a text from Chaz saying that his mom and dad were fine. They made it up to the cottage and they were going to the parade in Langlade. Or, well, sorry, White Lake, I believe was his comment to me. And I was like, oh, okay. He said he had gotten a text from her. So I was like, that made me feel a little better. Like, okay.
But then no, it didn't,
No big
because
deal.
why is she not texting me back?
At what point do you begin to grow concerned again?
He called me on Wednesday and said, Mom and Dad haven't come home. And I was like, what? He's like, and I haven't heard from them. And I'm like, did you call them? And he's like, yeah, I've tried. I'm like, okay. At that point, he asked me what he should do. And I said, call the police, have them go over, do a well check on the cottage. And he's like, okay. I called him back a little later and I said, did you call? And he's like, no, I can't find the number for up there. My husband, knowing me, he's like, all right, we're going to get in the car. We're just going to drive over there. I asked him for the address. He texted it to me so that I could get there.
Sure. And when you say in the call with Chandler that he didn't know the number up there, he didn't know the number to the police?
To the police station? Yeah. Or who to call up there? I mean,
Sure.
I don't know. I just thought you could call any police station and they could kind of give you a number or connect you somehow.
Sure.
I guess in my pea brain, that's what I thought.
Boys don't think like that.
We could Google it, something like that.
Yeah. Or, yeah. I mean, there's got to be numbers out there
He
somewhere.
clearly didn't know how to
So,
fucking take care of himself.
You decide to take matters into your own hands. You and your husband are going to
Although, you know, he
That's
could
right.
sit here and
He
do an
did.
elaborate
off
thing.
you go,
He did.
88 miles.
He just didn't want to.
And you
My
get to
bad.
the
One way.
cottage.
Yep.
See, that's the
Um,
difference.
What do you find?
My child did not.
There is two like big old like spoked wheels.
Because if he has to
Like
do
people
more than
use
two
them in
steps
their
for something, it's like
outdoor
oh, no,
motif
that's
all the
too
time.
hard.
And then there's a birch log across that. And I'm like, I
Apparently,
take a picture and I'm like, is this
Chandler
the
will have
cottage? And he's like,
full
yeah.
on
And
blown
then he's like, haven't you ever been there? And I'm like, no. At this point,
via
I
email.
called him. on my cell.
My child will never do that.
And
He'd be like,
I said,
"No, I
Chandler,
lied. I
no one's
wasn't
been
in
here.
school."
The grass is like 2 feet tall, well, 16 inches, 2 feet tall. And when you drive over grass, like when we haven't been up to the cottage, it gets pushed over. So you know that somebody's been there. It wasn't pushed over. It was pretty tall.
So you called Chandler.
I called him back.
Get
and
back
I
in your
said,
car, I would imagine, and you're talking to him?
my husband didn't let me go out of the car. He said, you stay in. I'm going to go look. So I called Chandler back. So I have him on the phone and I'm like, nobody's been here. And he's like, are the doors unlocked? And I said, no, they're locked from the outside, which I thought was weird because ours has a normal like key lock.
Right.
And he's like, no, that's how it is. I'm like, okay. And he's like, did you check everywhere behind like the boathouse? And I'm like, Uncle Mike's doing that right now. He's like, okay. He's like, did you find anything? And I said, like, what? And I was shocked that he said, any bullet shells or any blood or anything. And I went, what? And he's like, did you find anything? And I'm like, no one's been here. And he's like,
I'm still
okay, what do you think I should do? I'm like, you need to report them as missing. Obviously, they didn't make it here. I don't know how they could go to a parade if they didn't make it here, but whatever. Maybe they stayed somewhere else. I didn't know.
At that point, you head back to your cottage for a little bit?
Yes. And then I got a call from a Detective Nelson, I believe.
You started talking to the police at that point?
Yep, I got a phone call. So yeah, he asked some
Yes, she
questions
did.
and I told him what I knew. And he called, is that Wednesday? Yeah. And then he called back to like the next, so on Wednesday, after I got that phone call, I looked at my husband and he's like, we'll just pack up and go home tomorrow.
She said,
He looked at me and he goes, you're not going to be happy. Let's just go. So we packed up our cottage, shut it down, and drove back to Madison on Wednesday.
he knows his wife.
When you got back to Madison, I think we heard from your daughters. They took some time and they had went over to the Halderson house at some point.
Right, because I had told them, I said, well, you know, and Krista and Uncle Bart are missing. And Haley's like, we'll just go be with Chaz so he's not alone. I said, okay, because that's what she would do for me.
Did you yourself go over there?
I did not, because we didn't get back until late. And just the girls had already come back. And I'm like, okay. So, and I knew he had been invited, according to the twins, to Dan and Mary's, which are some friends that live up the street from them, for dinner on Wednesday. That's what he told the twins. Oops, sorry.
After that call with Chandler in the car about the search of the cabin and no one being there, did you talk to him again after that?
I did.
When?
We stopped at McDonald's in Eagle River. No. Yeah, Eagle River. And I called him back and I said, have you heard anything? And he's like, no. He's like, but I went to the police station and filed a report that they hadn't come home. And I said, okay, good. So they'll be looking for them. But I forgot to mention one. I was on the phone with him when I was sitting at the cottage. I said, I have looked for Bart's car everywhere. And he's like, oh, Aunt Jane, didn't I tell you that they didn't take their car? I said, what do you mean they didn't take their car? He's like, they rode with the other couple. I said, who? And he's like, I don't know. I said, do you know what kind of car they drove? Because I'm thinking, you know, maybe we can look for that car. And he didn't know. So I was like, okay.
So you head back to Madison because there's no car to look for, there's no people to look for, and they're not at the cabin.
Nope.
After you get back to Madison, do you have any contact with Chandler yourself?
No, I didn't. No. No, I did not.
You never went to the house yourself?
After, like, Mitchell invited me over to the house like,
Since.
yes. After everything occurred.
I'm gonna take 1 second, okay? So if you want to take a drink of water now would be a good time. The judge will probably even pour it for you if you ask.
You want some water?
It's a good idea for all of us, right?
No further questions.
Any cross-examination?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
May this witness be released and excused.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a good remainder of your day. You can leave the water up there if you want, or take it with you.
Okay.
And the next witness, please.
State is going to call Michael Bolt to the stand.
Take care.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Good morning, sir. If you're able to safely and responsibly testify without your mask, that would be our preference.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last name?
Michael Bolt, Michael Boldt.
Mr. Bolt, did you know a person or people by the name of Bart and Krista Halderson?
Yes, I did.
How did you know them?
Bart was a lifelong friend of mine. Grew up down the road, and I got to know Krista pretty much as soon as he met her.
Did you know their children?
Yes, I did.
In what capacity did you know Chandler and Mitchell?
I am actually godfather for both of them.
Did you have contact with them throughout the years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we would see usually holidays and for both of the boys' birthdays and around tax time because Bart did my taxes, so.
Okay. How did you come to learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
I got a text from my sister and she said, "Have you been on Facebook this morning?" And I replied no, and immediately went to Facebook to where I see that she had shared the picture of Bart and Krista and that they were missing.
And when you learned that they were missing, did you start to learn details that they had taken alcohol or gone to a casino?
I did. I believe it was when Chandler had his interview with one of the local stations down here. I was online constantly, looking for something, and I saw what they had reported or what he had reported.
And you were good friends with Bart. Tell me about his drinking habits.
When I was with him, if we had a drink or two throughout the whole weekend, that would probably be it. Sometimes we would go the whole weekend without having a drink, and it was never in front of Mitchell or Chandler.
And I assume, obviously, Bart was your accountant.
Yes.
Tell me about his habits with money.
I don't like to call people tightwads, but I would say Bart was very tight with his money. And he actually introduced me to his investor and suggested that I get something set up for my son as far as a 529 was concerned, which I took his advice, and I know he put money away for the children. And, we had conversations about it. And
did you ever know him to gamble?
no, I could have given Bart a $100 bill, and I think he would have gave it back and said, "No, we're not going." I don't ever think that he stepped foot in a casino as far as I'm aware.
At some point in your careers over your life, you worked in solar paneling. Is that fair?
That is correct. Yes, I went to school, I believe, in 2011, 2012, and then I got a job shortly after that.
Did you ever have conversations with Chandler about solar paneling?
Yes, briefly. Bart and Krista and Chandler and I talked about it, and they had told me he was going to go to school for solar energy. And I borrowed him a tool that I had received when I went to school, and we discussed it briefly. And that was pretty much the extent of that.
Did Chandler ever work with you installing solar panels?
No, he did not.
No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Nothing,
Nope.
thank you.
Thank you. May this witness be excused and.
I don't even know why they're there.
Thank you, sir. Have a good remainder of your day.
We're going right on to the next one. It's gonna just.
Folks, I'm advised that this would be for the scheduling and presentation of witnesses, a good point to break. We
Right on in to the next one. Oh, in here. Up next, we got more. Your camera angles suck, bro. There you go. I like this judge. He's a nice judge.
Please be seated, everyone.
Camera down. There you
Attorney
go.
Raymond.
The state will now call Sabrina Sims to the stand.
Who's that?
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Detective, good morning. If you're willing and able to and can responsibly and safely testify without a mask, we would ask that you do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last names?
Yes, it's Sabrina Sims, Sabrina Sims.
How are you employed?
I am a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been a detective for 14 years.
And are you one of the 2 case detectives assigned to this case?
Yes, I am.
I just want to talk to you very briefly about how you go about investigating a missing persons case. What are sort of just generally the steps that you go through as a detective?
Sure. So usually initially those are reported to deputies who we've already heard from. Based on the information they receive, we do follow-up interviews. Sometimes that leads us to.
Oh no. Where did your words go? Your words are missing.
Information to your investigation.
It's very important. The information we get early on leads us in certain directions sometimes, and other times it leads us in wrong directions. Usually in missing person cases, obviously, the first couple of days, the first hours that we find out information is very vital in where our investigation goes. Sometimes time is of the essence when we're locating people, children and adults alike.
Okay. At this point, I'm going to show you exhibits 40 through 43. Could you please identify exhibit 40?
Exhibit 40 is a USB drive, which includes media interviews.
And who is giving said media interviews?
Chandler Halderson.
And did you collect these from the various news stations in the course of your investigation?
Yes, we did.
And exhibits 41 through 43, how would you describe those?
Exhibit 41 is a transcript of a media interview that Chandler Halderson did with Channel 3000. Exhibit 42 is a transcript of a media interview with NBC 15 conducted by Chandler Halderson. And 43 is a transcript of a media interview with WKOW and Chandler Halderson.
And what date were these interviews given?
July 8th, 2021.
Okay. At this time, I would move Exhibit 40 into evidence and would ask to publish.
Any objection to its receipt?
Can we approach for a bit, actually?
Sure.
Thank you.
This is for commercial. All right, whoever is on your phone. Because that. I do not know how to fix that.
Your Honor, at this time, we'd request that you'd read the stipulation regarding the media interviews.
Very good. I shall. At certain times during trials, it may come to pass that the parties reach agreements about facts. And this is done for a host of reasons and is always appreciated because it means we don't have to introduce those facts through witnesses and testimony. In this instance, at this moment, the district attorney and the attorneys for Mr. Halderson have stipulated or agreed to the existence of certain facts, and you must accept these facts as conclusively proved. In this case, the district attorney and defendant's attorneys have stipulated to the following facts. The television news broadcasts presented as evidence in this case, including interviews from WISE TV Channel 3, WKOW Channel 27, and NBC Channel 15, are authentic recordings of the news broadcasts. The person identified as an off-camera speaker in these news broadcasts as Chandler Halderson is, in fact, the defendant, Chandler Halderson. I also remind you, ladies and gentlemen, about the instruction that I gave yesterday before we first saw a recording. Recordings are proper evidence. These have been closed captioned for you, but again, the closed captioning is secondary. What you hear is the evidence. And I will remind you that if it appears anything has been redacted from these, those are redacted due to decisions made previously before trial. I'll also remind you that it is the statements that are heard on these videos from the defendant, and his identity has been stipulated as the speaker, that is the evidence that's being put forward to you here today.
First one we're going to play is Channel 3000.
Thanks for staying with us. Officials are still searching for this couple, Bart and Krista Halderson. Now, there are a lot of questions about the Dane County couple's disappearance that we are working to get some answers to, but tonight, police aren't saying much. And that led us to the couple's son, who says he's just as confused as investigators. Adam Duxter spoke with that man today. He's here now with what he learned. Adam?
Well, Eric, Chandler Halderson lives with his parents in the village of Windsor and says another unknown couple picked them up early Friday morning before he was awake. And tonight, we have to wonder what happened to Bart and Krista Halderson. Brett Schuster says his usually quiet street is busier than ever since last night.
I pulled in, there's a couple of sheriffs out there, then 2 hours later, there's 3-4 detectives there. As we saw the detectives enter the house, that's where we knew there's something going on inside Bart's house.
Shortly after, the Dane County Sheriff's Office shared this photo of Bart and Krista Halderson. Police say the couple had planned to go to their cabin in Langlade County. Their son, Chandler, asked not to be shown on camera, but he told us he didn't see his parents leave and added they didn't drive themselves.
They were picked up by their friends who I never got the name of, and I assumed it was someone I was aware of. Close neighbors of theirs up the street, or their best friends down on the east side. So that's what I assumed. I never really asked any further.
Chandler says he assumed his parents had turned off their phones to avoid roaming charges. And it wasn't until after the holiday weekend ended that he got nervous.
Because this weekend it was packed. I get that. Packed. Maybe the weather wasn't great for messaging.
Tonight, Dane County Sheriff's Office says there are too many unanswered questions to say anything. While Langlade County Sheriff's Office wouldn't confirm they're helping in a search. Police instead spending today interviewing neighbors, like Brett Schuster himself.
It's shocked. I mean, it's odd, though. Everything that seems, it's odd and shocking that, you never expect or anticipate seeing something that, especially that close to your house. I hope everything works out and it's just a misunderstanding with communication and comes pulling in the driveway any minute.
And Chandler Halderson says for his parents to leave, even with another person, does happen from time to time. But he tells me another family member went to that cabin to check out cell service and was able to get through.
Hopefully we get some answers soon. Adam Duxter reporting. Adam, thank you.
The second video of Exhibit 40 is NBC 15.
The search continues for this couple, Krista and Bart Halderson. They live near DeForest. They were reported missing yesterday. NBC 15's Elise Ramos joins us live from the Dane County Sheriff's Office Northeast Precinct. Elise, you spoke with their son and people in the Haldersons' neighborhood.
Yeah, John, the Halderson's son says that he helped his parents pack up the night before their trip to their cabin in Langlade County. He hasn't seen them since.
I was told they'd be home Monday or Tuesday, and Tuesday afternoon I got a little worried.
Chandler Halderson says his parents, Krista and Bart, were getting picked up by friends that Friday. They were planning to be at the cabin over the 4th of July weekend.
Apparently they did make it. I got a text on Sunday.
Halderson says after that text, he began getting worried when his calls to his mom went directly to voicemail.
That's when I got worried and I went to make a report.
Halderson says his aunt went to the cabin on Tuesday, but did not find anyone there.
Shocked. It's odd. The whole thing is just odd.
Brett Schuster lives next door to the Haldersons.
You know, this is typically a quiet neighborhood. You usually never see anything like this or anticipate or expect to hear something like this.
One of Halderson's biggest concerns, who his parents were with when they left.
They went with their friends, but I didn't ask who their friends were, so I'm still not really sure.
While law enforcement searches for answers, the community is hoping for the Haldersons' safe return.
I hope everything works out and this, lost communication. They're up north and they pull in any minute. So thoughts and prayers to them and hope everything's fine.
I called the Langlade County Sheriff's Office today for information, and they told me that the Dane County Sheriff's Office is leading this investigation. I'm waiting to hear back from Dane County on whether or not deputies did a welfare check at that cabin in Langlade County. In DeForest, Elise Ramos, NBC 15 News.
And finally, a clip from WKOW.
Authorities are still searching for a Windsor couple who have not been seen in days. 50-year-old Bart Halderson and his wife, 53-year-old Krista, were supposed to travel north last week and return home on Tuesday.
But their son tells Tony Galley his parents' whereabouts are unknown.
Bart and Krista Halderson of Windsor had plans for the 4th.
Their plans were going up with their friends and do some minor repairs on their cabin.
That cabin is some 3 hours away from Windsor on a lake in a small community in Langlade County.
Did you literally see them pulling out of the driveway heading out?
No.
Their son, Chandler Halderson, who asked to be off camera, says whoever his parents were traveling with from this neighborhood were to do the driving. He says he received a text from his mother.
She got back to me on Sunday, said they made it safely.
That's the last he's heard from his parents. Neighbor Brett Schuster's reaction to the Haldersons' disappearance.
Wow. My wife is pretty shook up too. I mean, they're a very nice couple, very nice family.
Detectives now go door to door here. While sheriff's personnel here in Dane County are checking for any and all information, the missing couple's son says law enforcement in Langlade County has checked on the family's cabin there. And he says that visit only adds to the mystery.
The sheriff said it looked like there wasn't anyone home.
Family and friends hope the Haldersons' unexpected extended time away is just that, and not a sign they're in trouble. In Windsor, Tony Galley, 27 News.
No further questions at this time.
Any cross-examination?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Detective, you can return back to the table. And the next witness, please.
State's going to call Mary Sesto.
Yes. If you feel that you can do so safely and responsibly, testifying without your mask would be our preference if you would.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
I do know that you work in healthcare though, so if you feel more comfortable, you are allowed to leave.
Okay, no, I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
It's up to you.
I appreciate it.
Good morning. Could you please state your first and last name for the record?
Gee, works in healthcare. She was
Mary
like, no, if I
Sesto, Marysesto.
Ms. Sesto, how are you employed?
I work at the University of Wisconsin in the Department of Medicine.
And did you know two individuals by the name of Bart and Krista Halderson?
Yes.
How'd you know them?
We've been friends since Mitchell was a baby, so 25 years.
During that 25 years, did you ever know Bart and Krista to go gambling?
No.
Tell me about their alcohol usage.
When we were with them, we would have wine with dinner, beer, but they weren't heavy drinkers.
Did you ever know them to drink tequila or gin?
No.
So you knew Bart fairly well. Was Bart one to have large amounts of cash lying about?
No.
You kind of smiled. Can you explain that?
So Bart's a CPA. He was our accountant. I'm stereotyping CPAs, but he was very conservative with his money. Undoubtedly, he bought good quality things for around the house, but it wasn't like he went out to eat at expensive restaurants or bought really expensive bottles of wine. He was conservative with his money.
All right. He's mindful. And you're married, correct?
Yes.
And was your husband also friends with the Haldersons?
Yes.
And in fact, did you guys do things together as families or couples?
Yes, we did.
What sort of things did you guys do?
Oh, watched Badger Packer football games. We would go to the terrace. We've gone to their cabin. My husband would help Bart close his cabin pretty much every year, except for during COVID. So, I mean, yeah, I guess just general. During COVID, we would hang out at bonfires. So.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the cabin. How many times do you think you've been to the cabin?
I think I've been there 2, possibly 3 times. I don't.
And did you, and was it usually with your husband as well?
Yes, the 4 of us.
Did you both ride in the same car with Krista or something, and Bart or something else?
No, we would take our own vehicles.
Can you explain that a little?
Sure. When we went up to the cabin with them for the weekend, well, backing up, Bart didn't leave a lot of equipment at the cabin. So what he had at the house, so if we were going to be using a chainsaw or cleaning up stuff, he would have to take stuff with him in the car, plus food. I mean, really not a lot was left at the cabin, all their clothes. So there's no way the 4 of us would have fit in their Subaru or my car or my husband's car with all our stuff. So we always took separate cars when we went up there as couples.
Was Bart pretty tight in his packing?
He packed well. Is that okay? Yeah. Yes.
Did Krista have any habits of communicating to you or to anybody else, to your knowledge, when they were going to the cabin?
Yeah, so I know like they had gone to the cabin earlier in June, and we knew about that. I had texted her to have fun at the cabin, or I hope they had a nice time. But typically we would know when they were going to be gone. Not always, but typically, yes.
Okay. Were they more planned sort of individuals, or were they more kind of fly by the seat of your pants sort of individuals?
Oh, planning.
Would you have considered them cautious in the sense of making sure somebody would know where they were going if they were planning to be up at the cabin out in the middle of the woods?
Yes.
Did you know Bart and Krista a little bit as parents?
Yes.
If Krista was going to be going away and leaving Chandler for a period of time, do you know if she did anything in preparation for that?
Objection. Speculation foundation.
Perhaps lay more foundation I'll sustain, but you can explore.
Were you aware of some of Krista's practices as a parent?
Yes.
Did she do anything specific if she was going to be away regarding food for Chandler?
She would prepare food, to my knowledge, for Chandler, for the boys, if they were going to be gone.
Do you have any specific knowledge as to their practice concerning the dogs in the cabin?
So the cabin's very dog friendly. So they, to my knowledge, they typically took their dogs with them. When we went with them, they would bring their dogs as well. The last time we were there, it was just one dog, but they would bring the dog with them. So.
Okay, so the jury got to see a video, kind of a long video yesterday of the cabin, and it looks like there's a lot of property. Okay, so places a dog could run and
swim, and yes.
Okay. How often do you know anything about Krista's habits about keeping in touch with her children?
Yes.
What do you know?
So when we have been out with them, Krista typically texted. I don't know if it was Mitchell once he had moved out and away from college. But I know when Chandler was living with them, that she would text them. She was always in contact with her boys. We would arrive at the cabin, and even though we drove in certain cars, she would be texting them when she got there. Krista was a very doting parent. I just don't know of a time when she was with us that she was ever out of contact with the boys.
And being up in the cabin, did you generally have cell reception?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is that okay? Yes. How did you learn that Bart and Krista were missing?
So a police officer called me on Wednesday in the afternoon to say that Chaz had reported them missing. And if I recall, there were several conversations that day, but if I recall correctly, asking about if I knew about the cabin. I remember saying that my husband knew how to get there, so if they needed him to like give him the directions, but it was through the police officer. And then go ahead.
No, you're fine. What, if anything, did you do once you learned that they were missing?
Yeah, I texted Chaz and I emailed Mitchell to offer support, see what I could do. Offered to bring Chaz food because, again, knowing Krista that she would have left him a set amount of food. At least that's been my experience. We offered to bring him food down to the house.
Okay. And did he take you up on that offer?
He elected to come up to our house.
And where do you live in connection to the 4595 Oak Springs Circle address?
So just up the hill from them.
Okay.
So
you guys are neighbors?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you remember, was it July 7th that Chandler came over for dinner?
Is that Wednesday, July 7th?
Yes.
Yes.
Tell me about that night. Do you remember about what time Chandler arrived?
It was probably somewhere around 7:45 to 8 p.m. if I remember correctly.
Okay. And how did the evening begin?
Just, we expressed how sorry we were, how worried we were, what could we do to help. We did talk about police going to the cabin. Do you want me to state what Chandler said at this point, or how? Sorry.
No, you're fine. Was your husband, you said was we your husband?
My husband was there.
Okay.
For most of it.
Was he there for the entire evening?
No, he ran to grab pizza.
Okay.
But it was.
And was that pretty early on?
Probably 20 to 30 minutes, I'm guessing, after Chandler got there, because we waited to order the pizza until he was at our house.
What did you and Chandler do while your husband was out getting the pizza?
We talked. By that point, there were things that were said that just didn't align with the couple that I knew. So I went out into the kitchen to just put some distance because I was just a bit uncomfortable.
Okay. Let's back up a little bit. You said that you started to feel uncomfortable and some things were said that didn't line up.
Mm-hmm.
What was said?
So Chandler was actually trying to be very assuring that that they had taken a large roll of cash. They wanted to blow off some steam. They were going to go gamble. That they had taken a tote of booze with gin and tequila in it, which were not, as I mentioned, alcohols. I was aware of them drinking. And that they drove with another couple. So those things just...
One and one were not equal.
No, it wasn't the people I knew.
Okay. So you said you went to the kitchen. Why did you go to the kitchen?
Because he was just the things he was saying. He was just very, what I perceived as, just emotionally flat. I don't know. I was uncomfortable. So when my husband left, I stepped into the kitchen.
So some people are kind of emotionally flat, and that's just kind of how they present. Was that Chandler most of the time?
Not to that extent. So like that evening when he was at our house and he talked about the dogs and how he was frustrated that he expressed concern that the dogs had been locked out in the garage during the whole time that the detectives or police were there, and he got emotional that they didn't deserve that. They shouldn't be out there. So it was more so than when he spoke about his parents that I more emotionally flat. And
so he got more emotional over the dogs than his mom and dad being missing.
Yes, yes, when he talked about the dogs, there was more emotion.
Why do you move into the kitchen?
I just felt uncomfortable. I wanted me to be between the door and him. And again, he did not do anything that was physically concerning. I just was uncomfortable because what he was saying, it was not making sense to me.
Okay, so you put yourself between him and the door.
Correct.
And when you say door, I assume the front door, the door to go outside. Okay. What sort of things do you and Chandler discuss once you're in the kitchen?
I don't recall that we had a lot of discussions specific when we were in the kitchen. We kept it light. It was, I really don't recall anything that occurred there. When my husband came back, and again, I don't remember if it was before he left. When he came back, he said that Krista had texted him on Sunday. And again, I'm sorry, I just don't remember that occurred before my husband left for pizza.
That's okay.
Or when he came back. But I couldn't believe that if they had left on Friday. I've never, ever known her in 25 years, once the boys were old enough, that she was out of contact from them for that length of time.
Did you and Chandler have any discussions about phones?
Oh, yes. So I was trying to be reassuring that don't worry. Because in my brain at that point, I'm thinking they're in a car wreck on the side of the road. Something like that happened. And so I said that, don't worry, they can track their phones. They can look at where the location of the phone is, and hopefully that will find them. And his comment was, no, they can't do that.
Okay, and how did he say that?
Just very flat. They can't do that.
They can't do that.
Did you talk at all about
They can't
Chandler's
find
medical
her.
concerns at that time?
Yeah, so he had mentioned that
her
because
phone
of
is
his
not on
concussion,
her.
it wasn't clear if he had the CAT scan or was scheduled for the CAT scan, but that there was going to be a large deductible with that. And then I made the comment, and I don't know if this will make sense, but I made the comment, well, you'll be getting that large paycheck from American Family. So not exactly what you wanted to go to, but at least you have those resources. And so we had been told that Chandler had roughly a 6-month position with American Family that progressed from an internship to a paid position, but that he hadn't been getting paid and that he was going to be getting this large check. And then he made the comment that something along the lines, that didn't work out or that's not going to happen. And I was really uncomfortable with things that were being said prior to that. But that was, I remember like thinking, I just need him to leave now because nothing, I don't believe anything he said.
At any point that evening, were you able to observe Chandler's feet?
Oh, yes.
Specifically his big toe.
His big toe. He had asked, and this is towards the end of the evening when he was there, that he
Grips.
had there was a cut on his toe from some broken glass from the fireplace. He said that the dogs, they were playing ball downstairs and the dog ran in and broke the fireplace glass. And so he wanted me to look at his toe. So he took off his shoe and sock and bent over and was showing me the bottom of his foot, the bottom of his toe. So, I mean, there was a small cut there.
How big would you say that cut was?
I don't know, small was more than just a puncture, but probably like less than 1/8 of an inch, little round area. It wasn't, yeah.
Okay. You had talked to him about the CAT scan, and you said you work at the medical school. What's your job?
So I'm a researcher. So I'm also, my background, I'm a physical therapist, but I haven't practiced clinically for a couple decades. So
how was Chandler's movement during the evening at your house?
Fine. I noticed no
Objection.
Oh.
What? Can we approach?
Oh. Jesus. Mute it. Lord have mercy. Like, I can't believe, like, he would be... Put me back up here. That's not right. I can't press right buttons today. Oh. I'll be back.
How Chandler moved the evening he was at your house on July 7th of 2021.
Oh,
so
you
I
lost
did
that
not-
one.
So as an example, when he asked me to look
Nanny
at his
boo-boo.
foot, he was seated in a chair. He bent fully forward, pulled his foot up, turned his head so we could both look at the bottom of his foot. I didn't see any restrictions in his motion during that, which it's full spine motion for him to do. I do not recall any restrictions in his movement or at any other time in the evening.
Okay. So he was fucking fine. And he's big.
No further questions.
Lying liar who lies.
Good morning, Ms. Esto.
Oh.
So I'm going to sit here just for the mic situation. Can you
Fucking do
okay.
something now.
Perfect. Thank you. A couple questions for
Jesus.
you. How long would you say that you've known Brett and Krista Halderson?
I think 25 years. I believe it was when Mitch, I think it was after Mitch was born that we met him through another neighbor.
Okay. And in that time, I'm going to assume that you had a lot of one-on-one time with Krista.
Yes, I mean, yes, Krista and Bart. I mean, we did a lot with them as a couple.
So as a couple, you hung out a lot.
Yes.
You went to dinner. And how often would you say that you had one-on-one time with Chandler?
Just one-on-one? Let me think about that. I know, like, when we would stop over at their home, Krista would want, during COVID, Chandler to come out, say hi, catch us up on what was new in his life. But I think they were typically always, Bart and Krista were always there. Sorry, I'm just going back before COVID. Yeah, I think as we hung out, like we were together over Thanksgiving. I would chat with Chaz then, but there were other people in the room. So yeah, I can't think of a time where it was just me and him in a room.
So this was probably the first time that she did have that kind of interaction with Chandler.
Yes.
And would you say the same thing about interactions with Mitchell?
So yeah, yes, I mean.
So you never really had one-on-one interaction?
Oh, that's why, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct.
No, that was my fault. And as far as the small cut on the toe, did you notice anything unusual about it? The way that you described it was just a small cut.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, look, yes. I mean, it wasn't, I was looking for, Chaz was concerned about signs of infection, anything like that. So I was looking for redness, oozing. It was, I said if it continued to be problematic, you could go and get it checked out. But I didn't notice anything other than he had a bigger than a.
He probably got it checked out by jail nurses.
I'm going to assume you didn't notice any other types of cuts or anything that would have been concerning to you.
No, I didn't. I just looked down his foot.
Okay. You also testified about Chandler working at American Family Insurance.
Yes.
That information was provided to you by Krista, correct?
No, I think the first time I heard of the company was when Bart, Krista, Chaz, and my husband and I were standing outside, and they had talked about he had done an internship and had gotten a paid position, but they were trying to get the payment set up. And someone asked who was the company, and so that's when it was at American Family. So I think that's the first time I heard it. It was all of us together, and I don't remember who actually said it was American Family.
Okay. And was that the first time that you heard of this job?
Yes. I had heard that he had been doing some internship, but that it had been sort of progressed to a paid position.
And then the last time, if you will, that you heard about this job was when you and Chandler were in your home in the kitchen.
The next time I heard about it, yes.
All right. No further questions for you. Thank you.
Can you redirect?
That was stupid.
You said that there were times that Krista would have Chandler come outside and catch you up during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of things did Chandler catch you up on?
Just it was mainly that night when they talked about the job. I know there was a time when he had moved back in that we chatted. It wasn't a lot of, I guess, catching up.
Okay. All right, thank you.
May this witness be released and excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
She thought he was weird.
Your day. And the next witness, please.
The next witness.
State of Wisconsin calls Kevin Linsmeyer to the stand.
Kevin Linsmeyer. Next, we have another witness. I use that every time. Except I can't get it to make a noise. I've tried. I don't know how these fancy YouTubers do
You
these
are
things.
willing and believe you can do so safely and responsibly. Testifying without a mask would be.
Judge Vices.
Thank you so much. No problem.
Stop talking
Good
about
morning.
masks.
Could you please state your name for the record and spell both your first and last names?
Yes, my name is Kevin Linsmeyer. First name is spelled Kevin. Last name is spelled Linsmeyer.
And Mr. Linsmeyer, how have you been employed in the past?
I was employed by the Madison Police Department.
As what?
Police officer and a detective.
And how long were you a police officer and detective?
For 31 years.
And do you remember roughly when you retired?
On May 3rd, 2021.
And where do you live?
I live at 105 Oak Springs Circle in DeForest, Wisconsin.
And where is 105 Oak Springs Circle in relation to the Halderson home?
It's across the street from my house, kitty corner a little bit. So, I mean,
Kitty corner.
lots do not line up perfect, but they're staggered just a little bit, but we are across the street from the Halderson residence.
And did you know Krista and Bart Halderson?
I did.
How did you know them?
So let's talk about Bart first. I've known Bart since childhood. He's from my hometown. He went to the same high school as I. We grew up 5 minutes apart or so. And then I met Bart again about 5 years ago when he moved across the street from me. And then Krista, I met through Bart. Krista was Bart's wife, and that's when I met her.
Yes, she was.
Would you just characterize your relationship with them as neighbors, or were you kind of friendly,
I don't know
or
what to do
something
this.
else?
We're neighbors. We went out to eat with them once, 3 years ago probably or so. I mean, we visited outside as neighbors would do. So I would say we're very neighborly.
Okay.
We're very
And in the
neighborly.
first week of July of 2021, what, if any, observations did you make about the Halderson home or lawn?
So the first week of July, I recall talking to my wife about that the Halderson lawn wasn't kept up, which was very unusual. They did a really nice job maintaining their lawn, very good gardeners. And
He looks
it was
like Ben
obvious that the lawn
Stein.
wasn't being cared for. So that was the first observation.
He doesn't sound like
that we
him, but
made.
he looks like him.
Gardening was kind of a hobby for Bart, or at least you thought it was.
They were out regularly working on their lawn, planting and maintaining their plants. That was one of their hobbies. You could clearly tell they enjoyed being outside and working on their lawn.
And I heard that's a little bit competitive on your street, that everybody
is.
takes a lot of pride in their landscaping and lawn.
Yes.
They would.
As of July 7th or so of 2021, had you ever met anybody named Chandler Halderson?
I did.
Okay. And when did you meet him?
Shortly after Bart and Krista moved into the house. I know for sure I met Chandler and his brother and Bart and Krista then. I remember that distinctly, and I'm pretty sure there was at least one more time in subsequent years that I have met Chandler.
Generally speaking, though, did you socialize with Chandler?
No.
Okay. Did Chandler come to your home on July 8th of 2021?
Yes,
Do you have any security cameras of any sort at your house?
I have a Ring video on the front door of my entrance of house.
So do you remember what time did Chandler come to your home on the 8th?
It was approximately 8:30 a.m.
And what happened?
So the doorbell rang. I answered the door.
We
I said to
chatted.
Chandler through the door, "I'll meet you in the garage."
Why'd you do that?
I had, at the time, I had a very young puppy that needed to be crated,
Mhm.
and I, didn't want to try to control the puppy and talk to Chandler at the same time. So that was the reason on why I wanted to talk with him in the garage.
Did you do anything as you prepared to go into the garage to meet Chandler?
Yes, after I created the puppy, I decided that I was going to record the contact I was going to have with Chandler. So I had my phone, I activated the recorder.
Why'd you do that?
Well, being a police officer, for many years, I felt, or I suspected something wasn't right based on my observations from the day before, where I saw 3 squad cars outside the Halderson
I wonder where he is from originally, because his
that's not
Minnesotan accent is
in the neighborhood, let alone
real
missing person type
strong.
case. Usually the officers aren't at the scene for an extended period of time. So I suspected something wasn't right. I just didn't know what.
Okay. So you recorded the interaction.
I did.
And that, just to be clear, that's just an audio only recording.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Linsmeyer, I am going to show you what has been marked as exhibits 45 and 46. What is exhibit 45?
It's a DVD.
So exhibit 45 consists of a flash drive.
And during the course of this investigation, did you provide law enforcement with your Ring video footage of Chandler?
I did.
Okay. And you provided a true and accurate copy?
I did.
At this point, I would move exhibit 45 into evidence.
Any objection?
Nope.
May we approach? Please?
Oh, well, fuck off. I stopped it before it blew out your ears. Oh, look at him. Jesus. Oh, well, then I blew out your ears. Apologize.
I'm also going to provide 47 and 48 for
Just
the
for a
court
second,
record.
I did.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
So the Ring doorbell interaction occurred first.
Yes.
Okay. So we are going to publish exhibit 45 at this time.
in the garage, okay? Okay.
And so that's the Ring doorbell footage.
That is correct.
Okay. And the date on that Ring doorbell footage was July 8th, and it appeared to be, the time appeared to be 8:37 a.m. Is that all correct?
That should be accurate, yes.
Check my cameras.
And this audio footage that we are about to hear in Exhibit 46, I assume that occurred pretty much seconds after that Ring doorbell?
Yes.
The dog is gonna keep gonna get mad. In the garage.
I don't know if we've ever met. Oh, I thought we did meet. I think we met once or twice when we first moved over there. I think we met. Sorry about what's going on.
What it is, but I was wondering if your door camera.
You do have it right now.
Does it pick up the road?
Some, yes, some it does.
Would you have any notifications from Friday morning early before 6:15?
We can check. That's not a problem. Is that before 6:15?
Yeah, before 6:15, kind of since Thursday midnight.
Okay.
Any notifications?
Okay. My wife is the one that knows how to run that, so I'll have her pull it up on the computer. So Thursday night to Friday morning.
Yeah.
Okay. You doing okay over there? That anything I can do to help you out? Do you need help watching the dogs or anything?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to leave my dogs and people.
I'm sorry, what was that?
My youngest dog was at a bad home before, so she's got to be under with me, my parents, or like there's my great aunt and uncle. The only people that she's okay being near.
Okay. Well, if there's anything I can do to make life easier, I mean, I'm retired now, so I'm around. My wife's around a lot. She still works, but especially if it's like watching the dogs or anything, if there's anything I can do to make your life easier, I'll give you my phone number. You can call me. Okay, ready? My name's Kevin. 1203. I'm actually going to get your number too if I need to phone you.
Text.
That's my cell phone, yeah, so you can text it too. Oh, you can just text it to me. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if there's anything, I mean, especially for my wife and I, as you probably saw, we have a puppy. We just got a puppy. We've always had dogs. Now we have a 13-week-old, a little work of art. But if there's anything I can do, I'm from, you know, where your dad is from the Valders area. I grew up in that area. He's 3 years younger than me, but we went to the same high school.
So you were with Uncle Brett?
Brett is 1 or 2 years older than me. So I don't know. I don't think I've ever talked to him. I know he used to be cross country, was he?
Yeah.
Was he a big runner back in, I think in high school he was a runner, I think. And I don't know if I've ever talked to him. I know what he looks like, but he is 1 or 2 years older than me. But how's, you know, your family? How's your dad's family or Krista's family doing?
I haven't heard anything from my mom's family. They're kind of spread across the map. So
Do they know what's going on though?
No, I haven't talked to them before.
Okay.
I wouldn't know how to contact them. Okay. My brother might know how to contact her brother. So I think he's better. Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping Brett can come because he'll be able to look through more things than the police are.
Yeah. Well, when Brett comes up here, if he comes up here, have him come over here. I mean, if there's anything I can do to help out with anything. I mean, I was a detective for 23 years with Madison Police Department. So I work, you know, that's kind of stuff. I know Brett was a manager. He was a boss, but he should have a lot of experience. But, you know, if you have Brett's phone number, I could easily call him up. If you want to give me Brett's phone number, I'll give him a phone call and just, you know, tell him. And actually, I'll give text that to me also.
Yeah.
Yeah, send it to me. I've always wanted to meet him because I know he was a police officer for many years. And I don't even know if he knows who I am, but when I met, you know, your dad and Krista, he told me that Brett was a cop. I'm like, I knew that. He was in the military or something too, I remember.
Yeah, he was in the Army.
I remember that also. But I'll have Lisa check that ring. I know the cops one of them came over and talked over here a little bit yesterday, and asked if we saw anything, and it's like, no, not much.
You really seen anyone up around that time anyways?
Do you, I read in the news release where the cabin is.
Sawyer Lake?
Sawyer Lake. Is that a cabin? Like a cabin? And they checked the cabin already up there?
I haven't heard what
I
they
would,
found.
I would hope they had the cops up there knocking on the door and checking it.
One of the 3 cops for the entire
No, that's a lot. I don't even know where Sawyer County is actually.
It's not Sawyer County, it's just Sawyer Lake.
Sawyer Lake, okay, I heard. Okay.
County.
Langley Lake, is that what?
Oh, yeah,
that's what I heard. I heard of Langley, never went to get past Green Bay, I don't know much, so. But, I'll have Lisa check, I'll text you once she checks, ring, so.
He
Thursday
doesn't
night
know
or Friday
much,
morning. Okay.
but he does. He could shoot us say lots of things.
Everything I'm telling you, if there's anything we can do to
Correct
make your
him.
life easier, you need to reach out to us, okay?
I appreciate it.
Okay, what's your name again?
Chandler?
Chandler, okay, and you have one brother?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when your parents moved in there, I remember meeting 2 boys. Okay, what's your brother's name?
Mitchell.
Okay. I don't know if I've met either of these since.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I can't even remember moving all the boxes in here. Yeah, actually.
How long have you been over there for?
5 years since I graduated high school and we moved just the summer after.
So what's weird is and I didn't know this until after you moved over here, but you used to live up off of West Mohawk Trail.
Yeah.
We did too, and I had no idea. I mean, and then we live at 933 West Mohawk Trail, and then we moved to Mohican Pass up on top of the hill.
Oh, that's where my best friend used to live.
What was his name?
Nate
Hoffman?
Hoffman.
Yeah,
Nate Hoffman.
live right across the street from the Hoffman.
cool.
Where did they move to? Okay.
I lost touch when I moved to Plymouth.
So, and that's what your parents told me, that you moved away from that area and then moved to Plymouth, and then moved back here then, right? But we live, I don't know where your house was off of Mohawk, but we lived close, and I had no idea, you know, that, I remember your dad as a Cub Scout. I don't think I ever talked to him because he's younger than me, but I remember your dad and your uncle as Cub Scouts, yeah, and that's all I remember. I don't remember him much else. I know I never talked to your dad in high school. He was 3 years younger, but and your brother was older, but I don't think I ever talked to him. But it's just how weird, what a small world. And then your mom went to school with my wife, Ella Fowler. It's like what a small world that is. So it's great. So okay.
Crazy.
Call me though if you need
Weird.
anything. Okay. Okay.
If you could think
They
of anything,
literally all went to
give me a
school
ring,
together,
if I'd be a-
different counties and different places.
Just from my law enforcement background, the best thing you can be doing is being in constant contact with the detective that's assigned to the case. If I was you, I would be lighting this phone up, what's going on, where are things at, you know, just being in constant contact. They're gonna, if they're doing their job the way I would be doing it, they already reached out wherever the Sawyer Lake is. They would have had the cops check in the area.
I mean, okay, so you told him to implant
Okay.
himself.
I can assure you that they're doing what they can on their end, but I would be
In
calling
what
that
way
cop
did
up,
he
you know,
implant himself?
2-3 times a day. Saying, hey, what's going on, or encouraging the cop to call you 2-3 times a day until, you know, this is figured out. And I didn't know your parents real well. I mean, I talked to him, I knew your dad a little bit, I would say hi to him and we'd wave, but it's not like we were real close, we just weren't, you know, so. But that's about all you can really do, and I'm not a big social media person at all, don't know much about it, but were your parents big in social media?
Oh, it's not helping finding them.
Okay, when was your, and your parents' workplaces have been contacted already?
Yep.
Okay.
I tried to contact my dad's, but his place is so locked down, it's hard to even talk to a real person.
No, and as long, and the officers know where your parents work? Okay, so they're doing their, trust me, they're doing what their jobs are, so that should all be covered. And then I would, you know, just stay in contact with the cops, they're gonna probably ask for more information, if they have questions from you, answer the questions. Be in whatever you can do of assistance. Is your other brother, is it your older brother? Has he been, the officers talked to him?
Yeah, they're at his house.
Okay, that's good, that's really good. Does Krista have any relatives around here? No.
Just my dad. And I've contacted his side, aunt and uncle, his brother, his nieces.
Okay, good.
Can't. Oh, my grandparents. I'm pretty sure they're in the loop now too, but they haven't heard anything.
Sure.
So.
Okay. You know, just work with the detective as much as possible. Do you know who the detective is that's assigned?
It's on a card in my dining room.
once you call them, ask them, are you the detective assigned, or do you mind if I continue calling you for updates? Because what's going to happen is yesterday I saw 3 squads here.
Yeah.
Okay, so not all 3 people are going to be assigned the case. One person gets assigned the case, because the other 2, most of the time, they're control officers or detectives. They have other cases they have to work on, but one person will be assigned the case. Find out who that one person is, and that's who you're going to call. That's who you're going to communicate with. You don't want to communicate with 3 different people, because you're going to get the runaround, because you know how the 3 people don't communicate with each other because they're all doing their own thing. You need that one person that's ahead of the case. So that's who you want to stay in contact with. But there's all you can do is wait, pray, hope for the best. Has this ever happened before? Anything like
Not
this?
like this long of not hearing from them. That's why I went to the police. So.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did.
So, yeah.
I'm really glad you did. Did the police ask you, do they have passports? Did they ever travel
I
out
don't
of the
know if
country?
they have passports with them. I can't get in a safe. I don't have the codes for safes.
Okay.
And that's where we keep them is
Okay.
safe.
That's the stuff that they're going to check. And the cops have a way of checking to see if they got on airplanes. There's a way of them doing that. So there's things they can be doing on their end that I'm sure they are, because that's what that's what they do. So okay. Keep me in mind though, if there's anything I can be doing to help out, especially with the dogs, just keep me in mind with that. We have no plans with this puppy. We have no plans till later this year, so we're not going anywhere with the puppy yet. Okay?
I appreciate it.
Good luck. I'll drop you a text once my wife looks at the ring, okay?
Thank you.
Or Finstein.
Mr. Linsmeyer, is the person that you talked to in your garage, Chandler Halderson, in the courtroom today?
I'm
At this
sorry.
point,
Could you repeat that?
The question asked if you would be able to recognize the person you talked to. Before following up with that, I would ask everyone not in the jury box to lower their masks for a brief count of 3 so that the witness can observe everyone's faces. Thank you. Please replace your masks. Go right ahead, Attorney Raymond.
Do you see the person that you talked to by the name of Chandler Halderson in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you identify him by where he's seated and maybe describe the color of his shirt?
Yeah, he's seated in front of me to my right slightly, wearing a blue shirt, dark tie, and a dark blazer jacket.
And I know that audio was kind of long, but at the beginning, the defendant asked 2 questions: if you had cameras and what they pointed to. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And did you notice any disability or limitations on the defendant's movements that morning?
I did not.
Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
No, thank you.
May this witness be excused
No, thank
and
you.
released from a subpoena.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations on your retirement. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Congratulations on your retirement, sir.
Another witness that would take us up to the noon hour, or?
I think this would be a good break. Otherwise, we'll go far beyond it. So
Okay.
It would be a good lunch break.
All right.
That was so much fun, y'all. This is the end of this one. Oh, and then we will get into the middle part of the day for day 2. But I'm going to do that tomorrow. Well, later tonight, today. So, okay. Well, I don't know. We talked to some people. We learned some things. It was fun. Learned some more that he is a grown-ass man-child who... I want to hear from the girlfriend. That's who I want to hear from. But I also am concerned I don't know that she knew something and didn't say nothing. And that's how, and she's their main witness, and they're going to wait and put her on and be like, she gets a good, like, that's just what it's going to be. And she knew because he told her, and that's how they're gonna link him to it, because they haven't linked him to anything yet. They're just trying to give background as to him lying about it and prove that point of it, because they haven't linked him to anything, especially not to cutting up bodies yet. So anyway, okay, that's that. It is 4:37 a.m. I am gonna go to the bed. I will do some more of this at another time. But if you have enjoyed this, like, subscribe, comment, notifications, do the things. Pretty place. And then you can even give me ideas on what to do other than just these. But I like doing these. So, but again, I'm still looking for things and trying to figure out my little area of what I want to do. Okay, I will see you later. Bye.